The time is 5:30, so yes, I will call to order this meeting of the Community Preservation Committee at 5:30 on December 1st, 2022. Let's see, all of our members are present with the exceptions of Tom and Giannis, I believe. Yes. Okay. And so first on the agenda is approval of minutes. Gonna get the date, but
October 27th.
yeah, October 27, 2022.
I move that the minutes be accepted as written. Yeah. Second.
Motion to accept the minutes, second. Any other comments or?
Wasn't here, so.
Okay. So hearing no other comments, we'll vote on approving the minutes. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All abstaining? All right,
Just me.
so that passes with one abstention. Okay, then we have application status update. Not sure what that was.
It's what's on the sheet.
Oh, that's what's on the sheet. Okay.
Does everyone have a copy? Oh, Garth.
So, yeah, so Christian put together, I don't know if you want to talk about this or.
Sure. I mean, it's just pretty much a simple summary of how things went from the pre-app phase to the app phase. So we had received 17 pre-applications and 14 of those turned into full applications. We did not receive full applications from the First United Methodist Church. We did not get one from the Franklin County Baseball Association. We also did not get one from Michael McIntyre. But all the rest of them have submitted a full app, and you guys are reviewing the first three tonight. So.
Okay, thank you. Yes.
I'd just like to, do we have any idea of what the additional money that's coming from the recent allocation is going to be? Do we know yet?
I think it's still kind of in flux.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I think we don't have a date for when that's coming
Okay,
either.
good enough.
Yeah, and it's for this exact year's funding. So the finance department kind of wants just to focus on the local revenue.
Sure.
Because it's just so uncertain.
That's fine.
So
Just
we're
wondering.
looking at just FY22.
So
We
I brought-
started in January.
So it's both FY22 and FY23. From FY22, we got 145,000 in the flexible funds, and then 10% to each category. So that was 20,000 each. And then for FY23, the only funds that are available are what you guys allocated to it was like the general budgeted reserve, which is 130,000. So altogether, it's 335,000 between the 2 years.
Oh, yeah, it's three.
Because we don't have any match.
Yeah, so
For
don't know.
FY 2023.
you can't really pull from the match until like basically the year after because it's so in flux.
Okay, great. Thank you.
And so, as you said, I think it's 335
Yeah, 335,000.
is the amount, and the adding up the totals of all the projects that we received, the requested funding is $972,821.20.
So full funding is not an option here.
Not an option. And just to break it down by category, in the housing category, 100,000, historical 96,345, and recreation 776,476.20. So.
Would you be kind enough to say that again?
Sure.
Housing I got.
Historical was 96,345, and recreation and open space was 776,476.20.
And 20 cents, okay.
Don't forget the 20 cents. So yeah. Anyone have any updates? I guess I just want to say that I'm glad that people are enthusiastic about community preservation
Yeah.
funding. And fortunately, some of these projects will not be able to be funded, but there's always next year. But we're not to that point yet. That will be later this spring when we actually vote on which projects to fund. For now, we're at the next item on the agenda, which is application review. And so essentially our next probably 5 meetings will be meeting with applicants for like an initial review of the project. You know, if we have any questions, we can ask, and then, you know, the applicants can get back to us later to help us in our decision later this spring. And the public can review the submitted applications and give feedback on our webpage on the city website. So if anyone's looking for that, you can go to the Community Preservation Committee page and then look at the, I want to tell you the exact link, Greenfield CPC 2022-2023 funding page. And on there, you can review the applications and let us know what you think of them as well. And so I was thinking in each meeting, I think it would be good to have public comments, like a public comment period if people want to give us public comments. But also, you know, people can email cpc@greenfield-ma.gov if they want to send us feedback that way. Anyone else have any other idea? I think those are basically the ways to do it. Yeah, Christian.
I actually put it's at the bottom of the agenda, but when you guys are going to be talking about the press release, when I was looking at the coalition's website, they basically suggest having the public hearing in the summer and then having not technically a public hearing, but having a meeting where you have public comment on all of the applications. I don't know if they suggest that, but they say a lot of other CPCs do that.
Yeah.
So that's what I wanted to add.
And I think I've seen where they do make that like an actual public hearing.
Yeah, you can make an actual public hearing too.
Yeah. And then stay until we get all the comments. I think that would be good to do before we vote. You know, I think it would be good to get public comments prior to that, like in this beginning phase where we're like asking questions. Maybe the public has some questions that we haven't thought of.
Yeah.
So I think the more the better. And we could let, just say like 2 minute, get 2 minutes for public comments each,
Yeah, our timeline has us making awards in like May though. Right?
May to June. Yeah. So,
Probably not a summer public hearing.
oh, I think he was saying like the required public hearing. Yeah. The one that we already had.
Yeah.
He was saying have that one when we had it.
Oh, okay.
And then when we're talking about these projects, it can be another public hearing, but it doesn't have to.
Gotcha. Just
I think that's
public
what he's
comment
saying.
as different things come up.
That would be an
And people
great
can
idea.
like sort of advocate for their thing and be like, oh, I think this is great, or like, I think you should prioritize the other one
Yeah.
instead, or.
Or
questions
I
like
really
this.
have concerns about how does this fit with community preservation or
Right,
whatever.
yeah. No, that sounds good.
Okay, and then I guess one other thing that I wanted to ask the committee members is, we have a scoring rubric for all of the applications. And I guess I wasn't sure, I don't know if we talked about like when we're gonna talk about that. I don't know, Christian, I think you were kind of putting together.
Yeah, I have everyone that submitted some. I have them all in a spreadsheet if you want to be able to use that tonight, but that's up to you guys to decide.
Okay. So I don't know if anyone has any, like, should we talk about what those scores are at this point or,
The scores themselves?
yeah.
Yeah, I think it's probably worth it to do that, just to be on the same page, yeah.
Okay.
It would be interesting to me to to know how consistent we are, how uniform we are. If we're all over the lot, and then there's something wrong with the process.
Then I need to know like
Or the discussion point.
standard deviation on each answer.
This comment's going to be off point somewhat.
Okay.
Since this is our first go around with the applications and with the scoring, if people would make notes on any things that seem to be changed, even if it's formatting or, whatever it is, if we make notes as we go along, it'll be much more pertinent, I think, than after the fact. So we can even clean up that part if there's anything that we need.
Like on the score sheet itself.
Well, like at home, I made an extra score sheet so that as I notice things, I can write those on there so that hoping that we'll have an evaluation of our process.
Yeah.
Yep.
And the same thing really with the applications. If there's some stuff that works or doesn't work,
Right.
we should really make those changes.
Right.
Right, yeah, because there were, being new to the group, I wasn't really involved so much in the creation of the questions, but one of the things that came up for me as I was reviewing was I wish that we had a question of if you don't get fully funded, can you still do this? And do you have a plan?
Excellent, yeah.
Stuff like that, for next time.
Yeah, would you write that down? Because that
Yeah.
is excellent.
Okay, so we have 3 applications on the agenda tonight. I was thinking maybe having, if the applicant's here, having them maybe give an update on like if anything changed or like what might have been fleshed out in the full application, just like 5 minutes. And then go to like, if we have questions, that they can either answer now or, come back with answers later. Yeah.
And at the end of the last meeting, we talked about, should we have a timekeeper?
Yeah.
So that you don't have to do that. So if you're leading the meeting, you don't also.
Yeah. I think Tom volunteered, but he's not.
Tom?
here, so-
No, it's,
Okay.
I can keep time on my phone.
okay.
Okay.
So how
does
much-
that sound like?
So what are the time parameters?
Oh, so, well, I was saying maybe just like 5 minutes for like a little introduction and then.
Okay.
And then we could, if we get through each one in like 20 to 25 minutes, then we would finish the meeting about on time. So maybe then like, I don't know, 15 minutes if we have questions. And, I don't know, we could be a little flexible on that.
And let's really do hold to it so we can see how it works.
Okay.
Okay.
So
Sound like a
start the
good
timer.
process?
Hit it.
Okay.
Ready?
First on the agenda is the Fairgrounds barn rehabilitation. So, hi.
You want me to say anywhere particular or right here?
I think if you're up here, the microphone will pick you up.
Okay.
Yeah, there's an empty seat right here.
Or over there.
This one got pulled out, so we'll go with this one.
So I guess if you want to just introduce yourself.
Absolutely.
Like let us know what maybe got fleshed out from.
Absolutely. So good evening. My name is Michael Nelson. I'm the president of the Berkeley County Agricultural Society, which owns the fairgrounds here in Greenfield. We've been at the present site in up on Wisdom Way since 1865, with the fair initially starting right outside the front door of Town Hall in 1850. So we have been in Greenfield for 174 years, making us one of the oldest institutions here in the city. So we are very excited to propose a project that continues to restore and rehabilitate areas of the fairgrounds. If you have been able to watch us in the media, you'll see that we have done a major campaign to upgrade and expand the capacity and the historic nature of the facility. In the past year, we have done just shy of $1 million in infrastructure work at the fairgrounds, including $250,000 in electrical work, $300,000 in ADA improvements. And then we also had to spend about $300,000 on stabilization of the embankment. On top of that, we've also done some other restroom improvements for ADA, window replacement, fence replacement, all sorts of things that have unfortunately been deferred for many years under previous leadership. Our entire board is a completely volunteer board, myself included. We don't get paid a nickel to be part of this organization. We do it all out of our joy for the fairgrounds and for the city of Greenfield and being able to contribute to the local cultural scene here in the city. My team, as is present, has been in place for 3 years now with myself as the president and 4 other managerial level folks that are working with me to put together the various projects that we do at the fairgrounds. Underneath us is an additional board of another 16 members who help us with developing policy and strategic decisions for the fairgrounds. So we have a strategic plan that we put together in 2020 when we were kind of shut down and had nothing else to do and we're kind of worried about what the world was going to bring to us. We actually kind of took that year to re-examine ourselves and figure out where we wanted to go and what we were going to do. We came up with a full facility maintenance plan as well as a so we're looking for an events expansion plan to really make the fairgrounds more of a year-round facility. We're still not quite there for January, February, but certainly March through December, we're now essentially fully utilizing the grounds. So that was one aspect of it, was getting the fairgrounds to be far more active. The other aspect was the historic preservation and making it into a facility that's really modern day and available for what our guests need and what the events that are continue to come to the fairgrounds need in order to continue to host their events. So I've mentioned a lot of the infrastructure we've already done. Our next step in our infrastructure plan is to rehabilitate our barns. Our barns were built, I don't have the number in front of me. I want to say it was 1900s, early 1900s, and had a full renovation and rehabilitation back in the late 80s, early 90s. So about 30 something years ago at this point. Over 30 years, a lot of things start to go downhill very quickly. We all age, and so do buildings. So we are looking to do a rehabilitation of the building. Initially, when I came before you with the pre-application, we were looking to do the full building rehabilitation, but the pre-application I had just focused on the roof part of it. As part of the full application, I've gone more into depth about the full renovation, the full rehabilitation we're looking to do, to give you that full sense of understanding of the whole project that's going on, and to understand that this isn't just putting a new roof on a building. This is actually historic preservation of the 4 buildings that you see essentially when you walk into the fairgrounds. Of course, the first one, the most iconic one, is the roundhouse on your immediate left. And then on the right-hand side are the cow barns, which of course are really what started the fairgrounds the 174 years ago with the agricultural sense of the cattle shows that took place here at downtown. So I know I'm at time.
Give me 30 seconds to wrap up.
Thank you. So before you is the request for $80,000 or $79,845. That is the roofing portion of the project that we're looking for CPC funding to assist us with. The other portion, we are investing $80,000 in retained earnings that we've saved from our capital funding to do 3 other portions of the project. One is to structurally stabilize the building. So we have, at this point, about a third of the stalls are unfunctionable due to damage between broken boards and leaky roofs and bad wiring. So this project in a whole would completely stabilize the structure. It would replace all the very outdated wiring in there with new breaker boxes, new wire lines, and fixtures, energy efficient fixtures, and then fix the foundation where there are structural issues, replace the boards that are rotting out, and then of course the roof portion, which would seal coat the roof and stabilize that back to its natural condition. And then we would wrap it all up with a full whitewashing. So it'd be a full paint job, essentially, completely finalizing the project. So everything proposed in the project brings the buildings back to their original condition. There's nothing we're proposing that adds anything new, with the exception of the new lighting fixtures that of course are new. Everything else kind of just brings it back to normal, and back to where we wanted it to be many decades ago. So the fairgrounds is looking to support 50% of the project, and we're asking for your consideration to assist us with the other 50%.
Okay, thank you. And so.
5 minutes goes by really fast.
I should have given you a 1 minute warning.
That's
And
okay.
right now I'm doing the time.
This is
We can
all a
see
test
how
for
much-
us.
Yes,
How
understood.
much time is taken for the next?
So yeah, we have questions from committee members.
When you went to the Historic Society, and thank you for all that documentation, and that was one that I was really looking for, because I was confused.
Absolutely.
Did you talk with the Historic Society about just the roof? Or did you talk with them about all of what you are requesting now?
So we talked about the entire rehabilitation, because we were looking to do, really the whole rehabilitation has to take place. That's really the next natural step for the fairgrounds. To answer the question the excellent question that you suggested earlier, that I actually look for on here, because I'm like, that question's got to be on here.
Yeah, it's usually on, yeah.
If we were not to get CPC funding or to get a lesser amount, we would have to look for additional funds. This is really a project that we really have to do in the very near future. I believe I included pictures of the electrical wiring. There is some really bad wiring in there. The roof is really in a state of disrepair. Well, I shouldn't say disrepair, because we can still repair it. It's getting very close to a state of disrepair. It needs to be addressed. So if we were not able to secure this funding or as a lesser amount, we would certainly be looking for additional funds, because this is really a project we got to prioritize.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, on that note, have you looked at, you've done a great job of obviously fundraising for, on your end. Have you looked at or talked to other possibilities for funding if we were not able to give you the whole thing but you?
As far as like grant funding and
Grant
such?
funding or, the people who have said, I will give you a chunk of cash. whatever that might be.
Sure. As far as actual grant funding, this is the only grant we have in the iron in the fire right now for this project. While this is the highest priority project for the fairgrounds next, we do still have additional ADA work that we're looking to do. We have some additional paving we're looking to do, and another phase of electrical wiring we'd like to do in some of the buildings. So other grant opportunities, I've really focused on those, particularly through the Office of Travel and Tourism, the Mass Cultural Council, and some COVID relief funding that the Commonwealth has out right now. I have those particular projects focused on those grants. So as far as this is concerned, this is the only one we're really working on at the moment.
Thank you.
But I'm always have my eyes open for opportunities. My friends at the Chamber of Commerce are constantly laughing at me when I reach out asking them for a letter of support. Now what are you applying for?
All the things.
All the things, exactly.
The other piece is, considering the various organizations that you now are working with, has there been any possibility of doing joint funding, for instance, with Signature Sounds or with, whoever you're working, in terms of doing something that would enhance what they're doing and therefore enhance the work that you are doing, but would be allowed to be fungible enough to augment some of it?
That's a great question. So one of the major projects that we're working on over the winter is a public wireless system. Currently, we have just a very small area of the fairgrounds that's able to operate the Wi-Fi system on, which when you get to things like the fair or to the Green River Festival, wireless that covers 300 feet isn't covering it. So all the vendors, all the musicians, all these people who have to have wireless for their operations aren't able to do it. So Green River Fest has actually been renting systems to come in during their event, and we've had to rent them as well for our event in order just to operate. We did get a 50% match grant from the USDA this past October now for $30,000, which is almost half, a little over half of the $50,000 we need for the full project. And Signature Sounds is assisting us with the 50% match on that in order to fund that, because of course that's critical to their operations and also helps them with their own funding of that. So that particular project, Signature is assisting us with. We do have two different people who sadly have passed away in recent months, who have actually put this project as their in lieu of flowers. And I believe we've received about $5,000 at this point in that.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, go ahead.
I have a question that I'm trying to frame. You've got 4 units now, 4 barns. And you're spreading out the cost of electrical and the construction and the painting and so forth. I'm trying to see whether it makes any sense to focus on maybe one barn, because we have limited funds.
Of course.
And I was thinking it would be better to have a discrete project that we could put a sign up in front and say, this is, rather than, well, we got a half of the roof and we got a third of the electrical. And
Sure, of course.
So I'm just wondering if that makes sense to you.
It does make sense in the sense that obviously if you do it piecemeal, it's less cost over time, or it's a smaller cost over time. But of course, the economies of scale makes it significantly more realistic to do it all at once. Going back to what would we do if we didn't get funding, we would still probably move forward with this project. We'd quite honestly probably have to take out a loan to do it, because really the cost savings to do it all at once versus doing it piecemeal is just so significant. It just makes sense to do it all at once and save tons of money. And all 4 barns are really in the same condition. Right. So, I'm sure we could probably, if we had to, we could probably pick one barn and do one barn at a time. But financially, it's just such a waste. We hate to do so.
I had a quick question.
Yeah.
So what I saw in here about explaining what the roof rehabilitation would be, it says the roof rehabilitation repairs large holes, secures loose panels, reverses rusting, and seals the metal roof. I guess I was just wondering if you have more details on on that process and what, I think originally you were saying there'd be a rubber coating or something.
Yep. So we're still looking to do the same type of thing. And I can't speak very eloquently about the process, certainly not as a roofer. But a lot of the panels just over the years have gotten very flimsy in the wind, so they need to be secured back down. And it's not as easy just doing a couple screws. We're talking thousands of screws over all the barns. So that would be phase 1, is securing those down. The rusted out areas, of course, would have to get new paneling. The areas that are moderately rusted but not damaged to the point of not being able to repair, I'm not exactly sure what the process is, but somehow it's removed. I don't know if it's a sandblaster or chemicals or something, but somehow it gets removed. And then after the metal is restored back to its natural condition, there is a rubber membrane that gets painted, for lack of a better word, onto the roof that seals it all tight and gives it another 20 years on its life, and looks beautiful. So it's functional and pretty.
Yeah.
So, I've seen those barns being used during the fair. And with animal showings and stuff. How much are those barns used during the year?
Fairly decently. I certainly won't say that they're used every weekend, because they're not, but they are used on the relative regular. We do have, I wrote in here the exact numbers, and I won't search for them, but we have a variety of cattle shows that take place for the summer, particularly with the 4-H groups that come and do a variety of cattle shows. We have goat shows that take place. I think we had 5 this past year. I think it was 5 goat shows, 3 cow shows. And then we also had some sheep shows that took place. So over the course of the summer, I would say at least 12 weekends at minimum that they're being utilized. And that's purely for the agricultural aspect. A lot of the other events use them actually as housing. I wouldn't have thought to camp in them, but people at Green River Fest, they actually use them because, inevitably it rains on Green River Fest weekend because everybody's up there. And rather than sitting their tents out just out in the middle of the field, they actually put them under the cow barns because now they now have secured housing. So they use them. The WHAI Tag Sale uses them as booths during their events. And there's a couple other events that use them for camping. So it's certainly not a case of them being used just for the weekend of the fair. They are used quite on the regular, as much as any other building up there throughout the summer.
Okay, great.
So.
I just would add one thing. I would like to, can you submit a quote for the roof work of how you
Absolutely. So I actually
have that to refer to?
Absolutely. So I actually have the quote. I was unsure whether I should submit it or not.
Yeah.
I didn't know if it was I don't know what I'm trying to say here, but I didn't know if it was appropriate to submit a quote with a local vendor's name on it, because then that vendor's name would be attached to the application. And so I didn't know if there was like any sort of like awkwardness of like, oh, they approved that project because John Smith's project is attached to it. So I'm happy to send it. I just wasn't sure if there was any like weirdness on that.
Well, maybe that's something that we need to discuss and get back to you about.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
it would seem to me like pretty much every grant I've ever written or reviewed, it's like, show us how you're going to do it. What's the price?
If you're concerned about that, we could.
Oh, well,
No, I'm saying you could black out the name of the company, but seeing the rest of the quote.
I'm sure I have it. I can send it to Christian when I get home if you'd like. I'm happy to submit it. I just didn't want, I sit on a lot of public boards, so I'm very used to working with the public. So I was I was putting myself in your seats of, in the view of public opinion, if we award project to this person versus this person, is that going to cause?
Yeah, I think that if you could send it to Christian with the information of who it is blacked out.
Yep.
So, because since all of this is public document, it also is not fair to that person.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so, but that would be helpful.
Okay, I'll send that over this evening.
And I wonder if you could break down those different areas, like what the electric work would cost, what the this, what the that. And then if you would, quite specifically, and if you would give us your priority, like of these, if you could only do part of it, I would really like you to do this part.
Okay, sure.
Yeah.
Well, I think he said we would only be funding the roof.
Right, we're just the roof. That's what he's asking.
The full project shows, the 15,000 for electric.
Right.
Yeah,
35,000.
Like a match. Yeah.
Yeah, so essentially I'm asking for a 50% match. Page 7 breaks it down for you.
I look really hard. Okay, go ahead, keep going.
Okay. I guess so.
Just while you're talking about quotes, I did talk with the city's procurement officer pretty extensively about just CPC in general. And for like Michael's project and like the CSO project, municipal procurement law does not apply because it's a private organization doing work on their own land, as opposed to, say, the recreation department receiving funding to do work on city land. Municipal procurement law would still apply. She still does strongly encourage those private projects to get 3 quotes. Absolutely. So when you are getting these quotes, it would be ideal to have at least 3.
Yeah, the application is based on the lowest bidder quote that we've gotten from all of them. So, yep, this is the low number.
And then just the one other thing I was going to ask was, and I got to find it again. In your application, you referenced the Secretary of Interior's rehabilitation, and you went. I like that you went through and answered all those. The one that I still was wondering about was number 5: distinctive materials, features, finishes, and construction techniques, craftsmanship that characterize the property will be preserved. And I guess what I'm just wondering is maybe if you could give us like an example of what the roofs are going to look like afterwards.
Okay.
Because I think it's hard for us to imagine if it's going to look,
Sure.
like have the same historical characteristic look or not.
Yep. No, that's a great question.
Knowing exactly. Yeah.
Yep. No, I'll ask the low bidder vendor to send me a sample photo.
Yeah, a sample photo or something.
Yep. Absolutely. I can do that.
Okay. Thank you. Anyone have any other questions right now?
Christian, do you want me to send that quote over right away, or do you want me to wait till I get the photo sample from the vendor? Is there any rush on it?
We're not going to be talking about your application again probably for a while.
Okay, so I'll send the quote over as soon as I get that and just send it all together in one package.
So I had mentioned, maybe opening up to public comments during this meeting. Should we wait? Do people feel like maybe we should wait until afterwards and then just kind of, ask if anyone has any comments about all the projects that they've seen so far? Should we take the time like for each one to?
Well, what is the time already?
Well, he was able to speak for 6 minutes, so I wanted to hold out for the next person. And I think you all have been asking questions for about 10 or 15.
But you did.
I didn't time your questions. I stopped after the presentation part, but I can time it next time.
We still have 54 minutes.
I just wanted to make sure that the speakers are equal.
And I apologize, I've had my back to you.
Oh, no, that's okay.
So maybe, I'm just thinking maybe like at the end, ask, then it could just be like about any of the projects.
Okay.
Instead of like, if one person had a comment about all three, then they'd have to speak 3 times.
Right.
And that would take even more time. So, okay, all right. Yeah, Christian.
I just want to say we did not have public comment on the agenda. That's something people generally expect to see, and I'm kind of worried if people saw that there was not public comment on the agenda, they weren't attending.
Yeah.
Now that there's an opportunity for public comment, I just feel like it could be an issue.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like like the other way around makes sense. Like if there's an opportunity, but then you don't do it, then that's a problem. But
Perhaps, considering this is our first round on doing this, that if people want to make public comment, we could have it at the beginning of the next meeting around these things and then move on, so that, because I'm concerned as Christian is that we haven't said it so that there's been no alert put out in any way. But we could have it certainly at the beginning, we're not going to make any decisions right away, so.
yeah, right.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Maybe we could have it at the beginning, but maybe we just have it at the end.
Yeah.
And it could be about this one and the next one.
Yep.
Yeah, that makes
Okay.
sense.
All right.
Great.
Okay.
Thank
You know where to find me if you have any questions?
Yeah.
I'll get you this information as soon as I can get it for you. All right, thank you all.
Thanks, Mike.
Thanks for being our guinea pig.
Testing.
Just trying to get back to our agenda here to see which one we had next. Okay, so next we had, Wells Street Shelter Expansion. Melissa here.
Come on over.
And Bill's here as well.
Bill Miller is here from CSO. He's the Vice President of Housing and Shelter Services. And I'm Alyssa LaRose. I am from Rural Development Inc., which is the nonprofit arm of the Regional Housing Authority. And we've been assisting CSO with this project. So I can give a little overview of the project, and then I'm going to turn it over to Bill and MJ if she wants to add anything. So this project, you may have read about it in the paper on Thanksgiving. It's a big project. It came about fairly quickly this year, starting really with discussions last winter. With MJ bringing CSO and Rural Development Inc. together about the potential to add housing at the 60 Wells Street site, which is the current site for the homeless shelter in Greenfield. At the time, CSO was applying for the state shelter contract to operate the shelter. And so they have received that contract and will be taking on shelter operations next spring. And so as part of that transition, there was interest in seeing if there was that potential to add housing, because as we know, there's not enough housing out there for a lot of different people. But in terms of kind of the chronically homeless population, it's just a yearly struggle to find shelter and housing. And it's been that way for a long time in Greenfield. It's hard to sit in meeting after meeting of people who are working on the ground with the homeless folks. And just it's really hard. So we're hoping that this project will at least make some strides in filling some of the need in our community. The project involves significant renovation of the existing building on the site, which is actually 3 different buildings built at different times connected together. And so the shelter space will be significantly renovated and actually increase. Shelter beds will go from 30 to 40. And then the housing component will be accommodated through a new addition, a new building, 3 stories to the rear. And so there'll be a total of 36 studio apartments for very low income individuals at 30% area median income. It'll be subsidized through Section 8 project-based vouchers. So in terms of the ongoing operations, it'll be very kind of what we call low threshold housing. And so folks only pay up to 30% of their income and the rest is covered by the subsidies. So it's meant to really get people into housing and then start the rebuilding process with wraparound services that will be provided on site, but also in connection with nearby other service agencies, because it's in a location that's very close to other community services. And this project is really being made possible partly because of the availability of state American Rescue Plan Act funds, which is a limited time thing. And so we're pushing forward. We've applied for many different funding sources, and we're applying for CPA as part of what is part of the local commitment for this project. So the state, DHCD, the Department of Housing and Community Development, really expects to see the local communities put some kind of skin in the game with these applications. We're asking for a lot of money from the state. And so they want to know that the city is supportive. And so we also are requesting CDBG funds, which we hope to hear in the next month or so what the budget might look like for that. But then the other source that we're obviously asking for is CPA. And I know it's a big ask and it's your first year, but we also feel like, we're addressing the top priority in the community preservation plan. We know it's a supported project. We just hope that, well, I'm going to turn it over to Bill while we have time. Bill, what do you have to add?
Well, thank you, Alyssa. I think that was really comprehensive. The article I saw you guys have, some of you have in front of you, which also was comprehensive. I do apologize for not being in person. I didn't realize we were presenting again tonight. I thought we did present to this group, but anyway, I know you're still hashing out processes, and I very much appreciate your thoughtfulness about all of that. So, very briefly, working with MJ quite a bit, but with the city in general over the last 3 or 4 years, I would say, kind of consulting a little bit on what's going on with homelessness. I kind of got a sense of some of the needs up here, and I'm just happy to, have this opportunity to step in and see what we can do with our, the experience that we've gained over the years. In Springfield, this is a different scale here, different town, but in many ways that, the needs end up being the same. And this kind of combined shelter and housing project has some efficiencies to it. It brings more money into the project when you're developing housing along with shelter at the same time. So that was something we innovated 10 or 15 years ago. Again, just thrilled to be working with folks. It's been a pleasure to be getting to know people in Greenfield more so, and just happy to continue moving forward. If it's okay with the group, I'll just add MJ to comment on that, or is that not my place to do?
Yeah, MJ can. Maybe.
Oh dear, you're frozen.
It's frozen.
Yeah, you're frozen, MJ.
We did hit time.
Yeah.
Oh, you froze MJ, but you're back if you want to say something quick.
You're back, MJ.
We're invited in and we
Yes.
are really pleased they're doing it.
Okay, thank you.
Way to be.
Succinct.
All right, are there questions for the applicant? Yes.
Has anything changed besides the Community Economic Development Assistance Corporation and the Greenfield Savings Bank information? Has there been any change in the income that you say is committed at this point?
Yeah, so there's been a few changes already in the budget. The 4% bonds, we've gotten a letter of intent from Mass Development, and that's essentially funding it would pay for the Greenfield Savings Bank piece of it after construction. And then we also do have some flexible funding that CSO applied for from the Massachusetts Housing and Shelter Alliance that could go towards their. So CSO is also developing supportive housing in Springfield. So they have two projects going on. And so that funding is flexible and can be used towards this project and as well as supporting operations moving forward. And so we are applying to different sources to try to fill, the gaps, and especially, considering that Greenfield is limited in the amount of funds you have, we're doing our best to try to fill that as we can. But that's what we have committed to date.
And would you kind of talk about the local match? Because I know what the importance of that is, but if you could explain to everybody else why that local match is important.
Yeah, so this type of project, we applied to the state through what they call the one-stop process. It's the Mass Department of Housing and Community Development's kind of main funding application for affordable housing projects. It's a competitive process, and so communities across the state developers across the state who are proposing projects in communities are putting in these applications. And so DHCD likes to see that the city like I said, has skin in the game. Similar to, the city supporting the Wilson's project with some local funds. And so they wanted to see that Greenfield's supportive. Greenfield did provide a great letter of support with our application. This project, normally we would be coming to CPA, the CPC a little earlier in the process, but because you've got your timeline and this project has come about very quickly, it's kind of happening concurrently. But yeah, it's CPA is a very common source of funds that communities use to support these types of projects.
Thanks, Alyssa.
Yep.
Other questions?
It's a lot of money.
Yeah.
Like
The whole project or the CPC?
the whole project, the CPC money, like it's the only housing one. Housing is our top priority. I'm all for it. I do some math and each studio apartment is $650,000.
Well, if you add in the shelter.
And then if you add in the shelter, we're down to 300,000
Yeah.
per bed,
Yep.
which like I know there's procurement issues, but I'm just thinking like you could build it could turn all of Conway Street into like townhouses for that amount of money. And
Yeah.
and I mean, I guess it's just sort of the way it is, but like it's just mind boggling.
Yeah.
I don't know if you have like a budget break, I saw your things like where the different fundings come in. Our DHCD is like
Alyssa,
almost impossible to work with.
Yeah, that's fine, Bill. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I was introduced to this type of funding about 20 years ago, and I absolutely agree with you. It is nuts. It is just nuts, but it is the way things are. It's the way government funding works in low-income housing right now. If if that can be sort of modified over time, and it should be, I would love to see that. I think in the meantime, you know, the way I've sort of gotten my head around it is it brings in, you know, construction dollars in the, you know, in the first stage, and then it you know, brings in the product, the housing in this as a result of the construction dollars. So it's an economic driver. But if we could build 2 streets of sort of modest housing like was built in the, you know, not so long ago, but probably 30 or 40 years ago, that would be better. But this is the way it is.
Yeah, and part of it is, you know, increase in construction costs in the last couple of years. And so this would have looked different even just a few years ago. Part of it is that because we're serving, you know, because we're creating deeply affordable housing, and we need the subsidy attached to every unit, that triggers Davis-Bacon. And so we've got an increase there with, you know, the rules around prevailing wage and things like that. So there are, you know, some of those factors contribute to it. But yeah, it's also just partly because it's complex. The tax credits particularly are a complex funding source. And so there's legal costs and things like that associated with using those types of funding. So.
I mean, all that said, it would be awesome to have it there. Like, and it's just like, right? I mean, that's what makes people come back and be like, government can't do anything right. What the hell? I could, you know, Penfield could build 15 houses on the fairgrounds for that.
This is not my role, but I'm going to do it anyway. Part of the problem with subsidized housing is that CSO is never going to probably, or maybe in a long term, is going to get the money back that is included in building this, because the rents are never going to be high enough to, you know, and then the rents are going to be used to maintain it. So that the subsidy part, if I remember correctly, when we were doing the forum, the housing forum, there was an estimate put out there that even in unsubsidized housing, the building costs were like $350,000 a unit at this point. So if we look at it from that point of view, what we're basically saying is, yeah, it's going to cost this much to house people. And in the case of these units, we're probably never going to see that, you know, realized. Right. And so therefore the money's really going to go into maintaining it more than it is going into building it. So, yeah.
And there's also additional square footage there's a cafeteria, there's a commercial kitchen as part of it. There's a housing resource space, there's staff offices. So it's a mixed use type of situation.
Like,
so it's not
more than just like,
it's not just housing and shelter beds. There's a lot there to serve the community.
To the point you just made about the subsidized housing, I think we're talking about 2 different things. So what essentially the 23 million is soft debt, so that this property is committed, regardless of who owns it going forward, CSO or anybody else, it's committed to being what it is. So it will always be sort of low income housing in perpetuity. If anybody wants to turn it into something else, they'll have to pay off the 23 million. But from an operating perspective, there's virtually nothing that goes into the operations ongoing. It's a very modest, it's not a good business model.
Right.
For CSO. So it really is mission driven, and you know, for whatever reason, it makes us happy to do it. But
yeah, I recall from like dial self stuff, right? The DHCD like funding just sort of sits on the books as like, you know, here's our $6 million loan or $10 million loan or whatever, and it just sort of it's assumed you never actually pay it off, but it just sits there as like, we gave you this money.
Yeah, as long as you maintain compliance with the purpose of the.
Right, you keep reporting to them and do the stuff you say you're going to do.
Right, yeah.
And I guess this kind of goes along with one of my questions, which was where it says that CSO is committed to maintain the property as affordable housing for a period of at least 50 years. I guess I was just wondering how that's enforced, or if there's like a deed restriction, or, you know, how we can, obviously it, like you said, it would be very difficult for someone to like pay the $23 million and turn it into something else, but we also need assurance that, things are going to remain affordable. So I guess I was just wondering what the mechanism was for that.
Yeah,
It is
that's a good question.
It is a deed restriction in the same way that a loan or mortgage is a deed restriction. It's all mortgaged in that way, so.
Yep.
And our money would be required to, we cannot pay for anything that's over 100% of the area median income. So it has to be affordable on that level too.
Yeah. But I think like, in the grant agreement, there can be things like, it must be maintained as affordable housing for 5 years or, like whatever amount of time or we get the money back.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, go ahead.
I hear what you're saying about them wanting to know that Greenfield's willing to put up.
Yeah.
Is summer soon enough for you guys?
Yeah, we hope to start construction in the summer.
So for us to let you know if we say yes or no.
Well, and also city council has to vote on it too.
Right,
Yeah.
and so in terms of the timeframe, it sounds like we'd be contracting, we would do the grant contract in June or July. Is that right? So we would be able to start spending the money after that, after July,
Yeah, yeah.
or after we have a contract.
The committee approves this committee approves in March. City council does their review May through June.
Okay.
And then July is when the contract is signed.
Yeah, and so, yeah, absolutely, we would be able to use it as part of the construction, which would be at least 12 months. We're anticipating 12 months of construction.
I have a question, like, such a big project, $100,000, what, that's like kind of like a token, like a skin in the game thing. Is there any real basis for the 100,000?
I mean,
Or, because I think about like how much money we have to give out and like,
yep.
maybe 50,000 is, on such a big project, it seems like kind of a drop in the bucket and we could spend $50,000 of that, on lots of other projects.
Right.
Yeah, that's what I'm right.
Right, so we did include in our application to the state, we included $200,000 in the budget coming from local sources, which would be CPA, CDBG. Like I said, we've applied for some other funds to try to help fill that gap in the event that the city can't completely fill that. So that was what we kind of were proposing to the state as the local match. Yeah, I guess I just, it's.
More is always better. Something's better than nothing.
And I know
It's a pretty big cup.
And it's challenging because this is your first round and so you have less funding than you will in the future. And so we recognize it's a big ask. We recognize that and, yeah. I don't know what else to say.
I mean, you could flip that, I suppose. And so it is a big project. And so you're investing in a big way. I mean, maybe I totally heard what the guy before us presenting was talking about. And I'm all for the barn, repairs and that kind of thing too, 100%. So I get that these are hard choices, but I hope this ultimately is a project that the city of Greenfield, can take pride in. And I think so whatever you vote for, I would just feel like you're taking pride. Well, this is what, we are stretching a little bit to give to this, to put something in it that we do actually have skin in the game. It's not superficial. It's, this is the best we can do. So, but in the end, we're all working together. So, we'll all shake hands after.
Thanks.
Hopefully we'll get some good public comments too, with people letting us know what they think about it too.
I'm sure.
And certainly a lot of pre-comments on the plan. Where, there was a lot of talking like specifically about this sort of thing.
Any other questions or should we move on to our next application?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you both. Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Everybody.
Thank you.
People see this.
Yeah. I
I didn't think of that for this.
No, I printed them out and then now I realized that I left them in my lunchbox. Because I wanted to make sure I didn't forget them.
Of course, I can totally understand.
All right, so the next and last one for this meeting is Brian Lamore, Highland Park Tennis Courts Water Fountain. Is Brian? Yep, Brian's here. And looks like Christy's here also, so Brian and Christy, the two of you want to, give us a little 5-minute elevator speech?
Sure. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay, thanks. So thanks for the consideration for our proposal to start off. The project we're proposing is to add a new water fountain to the Highland Park site. It's to increase the access to potable water there for the people who use the park, which includes picnickers, walkers, runners, dog walkers, tennis players, bikers, kids who toss around the football, people, stroll with their baby strollers, and even people I think I've seen doing martial arts there. The existing fountain there has got a pretty low flow rate. It's pretty difficult to operate. It doesn't have a water bottle filling station. So the new fountain would have an increased flow rate, hopefully, and it does have a station to fill water bottles. And our hope and expectation there that would lower the use of single-use plastic water bottles and increase the use of reusables water bottles. I'm partnering with Christy Moore, who's acting as a financial sponsor for our project. This is essentially it. It's not as grandiose as putting in new housing, so it's hard to follow that. So our goal is to increase the enjoyment of the people who use Highland Park.
Christy, do you want to add anything to that?
I think, excuse me, I think Brian covered it. It would be, the budget would entail replacing, if you want some details on the budget cost, that's what I helped Brian with. It's about 225 feet of 1-inch copper piping that will need to be replaced and upgraded. And then obviously replacing the fountain. The fountain itself will be a standardized fountain that we have across all of our parks. Sort of the evergreen color with the sort of regular traditional water fountain and the refill station, as Brian had mentioned. And then it is ridge rock there, obviously. So there's only really one place that we can put it, and it's where it exists. There's no way of moving it. I know that was kind of discussed a little bit with the pre-app. I met with DPW multiple times, and we did look at where the meter pit is and if there was any place to move it. And there's a reason why it was put in there, probably in the, 50s, 60s. And that's where it will be forever. But obviously, we'll be modernizing it. It is just basically, it looks like a culvert pipe with one regular bubbler head coming out of it. It's not pretty. I don't think even with the water fountains being usable now after COVID, I would drink out of it myself. So it's something that the GTA, which is the Greenfield Tennis Association, brought forward, and I support it, and hopefully you will too.
Thank you. Question?
I have something. Hi, everybody. Sorry, I'm kind of out of the loop here. One of the things that I noticed on the budget was that there wasn't really a lot of match. The match was very small, and yet I feel like in kind may not have been looked at in terms of people's time and energy and effort. So I just wanted to point that out.
The tennis association, as Bill had shared, I think even in his letter, they put forward $500. Obviously, I cannot speak on behalf of DPW of any sort of labor. So these costs are all based off the West Street project, actually. So for a bid project.
So this would be an out to bid versus a DPW project?
Yeah, I would say almost all of the ones that have been submitted under recreation, because Marlowe's crew is thin and maxed out with many other projects.
I guess on the topic of DPW, it sounded like, going forward, all of the water fountains are being maintained by DPW / parks. I guess, have you like discussed that with Marlo, with DPW, like, adding all these drinking fountains, if that adds to.
Well, there's already one there, so it has to be winterized and opened up every year either way. So I'm assuming.
Exactly, Donna.
Okay.
Yep. Basically, the winterization is with central maintenance, which is a division of DPW. Our plumber has to close down all the irrigation, the pool, the splash pad, every fountain. It's just what they do. So one more, they turn it off anyways. And it'll be easier to do now.
Well, I guess I have a few questions. So I guess it seems kind of expensive. I guess the first thing that hits me. And I think how many people are going to use it? I go to Highland Park, I park down in the parking lot and I go and run, and I don't go up to the tennis courts to get water. I probably wouldn't even know, I've never used it personally. And I go up there kind of often, just saying. And I think about, I'm not against it per se, but I think how many other water fountains do we have in town, and how often do they get used, and are they also upgraded? I like the tennis courts. I want to support that, but I think, and I'm also thinking about other people who are going to show up and have comment and say, well, what about the water fountain at so-and-so, and that one's all whatever, and a million people go and use it. So I think that might be kind of tough. What do you think about what I'm saying there?
Certainly I could not tell you, John, how many people use the fountain. Brian might have an idea of how many tennis users might, but as far as your comment about changing all the fountains, this is outside of Beacon. This is one of the last ones to upgrade. We've done Hillside, we've done Davis Street Courts, we've done Veterans Field, the softball field. Trying to think, Beacon is next on our project list. And I think that's all of them. Oh, Lunt Field, we also did.
Okay.
So there might be one left at Abercrombie, actually. Maybe Murphy.
Yes.
The fountain at Highland is kind of down in the swale. It's near the courts, and the courts are in a bowl, essentially. They're set down off from the road, so it is a little bit difficult to see. So it would be much more distinctive having the LK model that we're proposing putting there, much easier to see.
Yeah, Jim, come.
It's been a while since I've been close to construction costs, but I agree. It just seems like it's a lot of money to do that job. You've gone out to private contractors and gotten bids on this?
Nope, these are bids from our engineering department in the city. It's based on the West Street project, which was recently just bid and is I think it might be finished now, or they're finishing it up. It's basically $14,000 for the installation of the water line. And then the rest is excavation, gravel, backfill, concrete pad, loam, seed. The fountain itself is $7,500. So yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I was surprised too, but these are the numbers that based on a current project that we used.
Is it made out of pewter?
It's stainless steel.
Okay.
I have a question about, I guess about the funding. I guess I'm wondering when this project would go out to bid, and what would happen if we approve this funding and then the project costs more than that? Would the city be able to make up that difference somehow, or?
Again, I can't answer that.
Yeah.
It's unknowns.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know
We're
if the
estimating the
GTA
bid to go out in October.
That's it.
Yeah, I don't know if the
Next
GTA
year.
would have more money to put to it. I guess if you didn't fund it all, there's a potential of maybe trying to leave the existing line there. But when we upgrade fountains, we usually replace the line because that's when you're, on site to do the work. So it makes sense to replace it. This, again, at this location, if you guys are familiar with it, like the fountain is kind of down in a low area, and then there's a house across the open field. That's like 220 feet away is where the meter pit is. So from there, we need to excavate, go all the way across that diagonal till we get to the fountain. So it's a lot of copper line and trenching to dig up and backfill.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I've got a support question. I walk my dog every day in Highland Park. And in terms of the letters of support, I'm wondering why you didn't come to, put a sign up at the entrance to the park or something like that saying, if you're, this is what we're trying to do. If you're interested, email us at this address or something like that. Why there wasn't more effort to go beyond the tennis folks and the official, entities, the Recreation Commission and the Rec Department to get support.
We have a support letter from the GTA, from the Parks and Recs, and one from Dawn, I think your organization, right?
Yeah, but I guess what I'm saying is the discussion of this is about all these other folks who use Highland Park in one way or another being connected to the water fountain. And, so the runners, the folks like me who walk their dogs, the other folks. And what I did not see and what I'm questioning is why was there not by the organization an effort to try to get some of those folks on board, by making some kind of, there are 340 walkers who agree that the water fountain would be a great thing, and here are their names because they emailed us. That's what I'm asking, is it seems like it was really concentrated in the folks who play tennis, and I'm just wondering about that.
We're definitely the ones who are promoting it. I mean, I'm putting my name on the application. So I'm the one who's trying to push this forward. It's a good idea. You can blame that on me as not having the foresight to go collect.
It's not a question of blame. It's just a question around one of the things we need to look at is what kind of community support there is. And, and that's as broad as possible. And so I'm trying to figure out how broad the support is.
Yeah.
And that it goes beyond the folks who play tennis. That's my question. Since you've said that,
Right.
I don't even know where that fountain is, very honestly. So that's why I'm asking the question.
And I guess if I could just add that, since this is like everyone's first time applying in Greenfield, I think we're all trying to figure out how to do this and everything.
Right.
And that could be like, that could be your homework, is maybe like see if there is more community support for it. Because, like we've said, we're not voting on any projects until like March or April or, something like that. So,
Yeah, absolutely. I'll take that on as my homework.
okay.
And
Go for it.
I have a little addition to your homework, which is to see if there's any place to put it where it's visible. I was even at the tennis courts watching a tournament and I still couldn't see it. You know, it needs signage, it needs something, but otherwise, to me, it looks like it's for the tennis players and that's it. And,
Well, and they did mention that it's going to be a bigger thing. The current thing's a small.
it's not going to be very much.
It's like concrete.
Yeah. The current thing is concrete. Have you seen the ones on Davis Street? It's a significantly larger green thing. It has the filling station. I mean, there's still a hill in the way because there's a hill there. Like you know, as Christy said, like we can blow off the top of the hill and then turn it into a parking lot and then you're good to go. But
I wonder if there could be a placement that's more visible, even on the hill or someplace, and then have signage around the park.
Yeah.
But otherwise, it's on the way, whatever, you know what I mean. You know, just if there could be some options that would be explored where it doesn't really appear that it's associated with the tennis courts. And that's about it.
If I can have the floor, I'll respond to all those.
Go for it.
First of all, I want to commend Brian for submitting this application. This was not something that we at all, as the rec department or rec commission, had thought as a priority. And when you guys asked for community input, they jumped on it. So I commend them for submitting. And I think because of that, he came from a perspective of just tennis because it happens to be next to the tennis court, but knowing that other park users would have access to it. And then Wisty, as I had said before, with the construction costs, I met with DPW twice out there trying to figure out how and if we could move it. We can't because it's ledge. Unless, as Gar said, we like blew out the ledge, which then the project would be more than the housing request.
$250,000 to blow up Highland Park.
We're really stuck with the location that it's at. And as I said, I think that's why they put it there in the 50s or 60s, whenever they put it in. However, it's easy to put a sign to say, you know, portable water access, you know, down the hill or whatnot. You know, that's simple.
Great.
That's simple.
Great.
I can even say, I can take some of that on. School that I work at Turner's Falls High School, we have a new CNC machine and I'm making signs. Bathrooms.
There you go.
Thank you. We don't need to be hard
Piece of
on you.
a
We just-
MDO, medium density overlay, which is weather tolerant, and some enamel spray paint might do the job.
Great, thank you.
I do have a question for to help Brian. So you guys said you're not gonna review these and vote on these until sometime in the spring. So is he, if he goes and gets additional letters of support, can they be submitted, or are we past the deadline? Like, how are you guys gonna handle that?
Yeah, I mean, I think kind of the idea of the meetings right now and meeting with applicants is to try to like refine the applications and, you know, answer our questions that we still have. So I think, yeah, if you can, you know, refine it and, you know, if you have more letters of support and I'm hoping we're going to get like public comments and things like that too. So I think all of that's going to build until, you know, we have a big public hearing and, you know, have like final applications and everything at that point. So
what I can do there is maybe post, as you suggested, post out there a QR code, a 2D code that people can scan with their phone and take them to a Google form and have them provide some feedback that way.
That'd be great.
yeah. And if you want to, and you know, if anyone's watching this, that goes for any project, if anyone wants to do that. And, you know, those can be sent to our email address, cpc@greenfield-ma.gov, or you can compile them all and then send them. That would probably be easier if you compile them all and send them to us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess I have one more comment, and I do feel a little bad because I feel like I don't want to badger you, you know, and I love the courts. I think that Greenfield having tennis courts is a real gem. I just want to say that. I think it's a super cool thing. But, I think that we have to look at I imagine the public, input and the limited users of it, right? And I think that, I look at there's $500 other funds that's kind of put forward. I think that it would look better if there was more money from tennis supporters, people who were playing tennis that said, well, I'll put in $5. I'll put in, and so there's a little bit like, well, you know what? The tennis players kind of supported it. They stepped up and they put some money in because it's costing the town 30 grand to fix up a water fountain that not a lot of people are going to get to use. And I think that the optics of it would be greatly improved if you can get a little bit more monetary input from the tennis folks.
Yeah, I think I can do that. Just in all honesty, the money I put forward was in advance. I'm talking with the treasurer of the GTA. He's like, I don't know how much we didn't know that the total was 30,000.
Yeah, I'm sure you didn't. It wouldn't seem like that. Yeah. But I think that for sure, that's the way it would appear cooler, better to do that. Yeah.
Right. So yeah, I'll definitely take that as an action item. I mean, we are a non-profit.
Yeah, like a coffee can up front.
Anything like that.
Maybe like a tennis container thing. I'll stop. Thank you so much for taking your time to be here. Thank you.
I've one question on, there's been a lot of discussion about location and ledge and such. But we're trenching across that field. Right, because is the water lines basically at the corner, like basically where the sidewalk ends there at the eastern side of Highland by that there's like a mail depot box.
No.
I think
No.
so.
That's where, no.
It's actually right, where there's a line of bushes next to that open grassy area.
Yeah.
The meter pit is pretty much right next to that house. So we wouldn't want it way over there by the road because of plowing and whatnot,
Right. Well, I mean, that's what I was pondering, like, because that grassy area is all ours as well.
Right, but it's
Like
really-
if the fountain was like basically as you enter the park.
Yeah.
I mean, it.
But it's way down Peabody Road by that house. Is it Peabody Highland Ave extension? I forget what that is right there.
Yeah.
It's right at the top of the hill, or it's down.
It's down around the corner, right? The fountain is kind of as the road turns around, it's there on the.
No, I think it's down right beside the.
Okay, all right. I think.
Okay, so if you're standing on the street,
Yes.
looking towards downtown Greenfield, the tennis courts are on your right.
Yes.
And then down the hill on the right is where the tennis courts is where the existing fountain is.
Yeah, I know where that is.
If you went towards Greenfield,
Yeah.
the very first house on your right by that grassy area is where the meter pit is.
Mm-hmm. Right, and that's where we're running the 220 feet of line.
Right.
Up to that. What I'm saying is, if we had a fountain up there.
I think that we
Thank
need
you.
to look at a diagram.
All right. No, we got it. We got it.
Got it. Okay, so on this, where is it
So
on
Google
this?
Maps.
Yeah, right about there, Chris. I mean, it's hard to see, but somewhere in that vicinity, Christian, where your cursor is.
If you can zoom in.
Yeah, so if
That's not where but where
That's
is
where
it?
the meter
that's what
pit
I'm
is.
saying. I'm saying, what if we put it there?
Yes,
You
yeah.
want it somewhere else that people can see.
Right,
You
right.
can freaking see it there.
Yeah. So I think you guys.
It's not next to the tennis courts, but it's where everybody's enters the park.
I think Chrissy Garth's point, and I think some of us were thinking maybe there are alternative sighting locations. I know that there's the ledge. I don't want to be obtuse here, but maybe if it was as you enter the park area, everybody would see it, and it would be like a super win. It would be like, oh, the tennis guys put the water fountain, everybody sees it when you come in, and everybody like us that go there would be like, oh, dang, the water fountain's right there. That's, I think, is Garth's point. And like I said, I don't want to be annoying, but maybe if we're going to spend 30 grand, just saying, it could be in a place where people see it. I go to cross country meets there for years, and hundreds of kids are there presumably filling their water bottles, right? But nobody goes there to fill their water bottle. It's not a thing.
Right. Well, because as you pointed out, there's no flow. And it would
But
be
so maybe it could-
15,000 cheaper because you'd need 10 feet of copper pipe. Because you're not going through the entire thing. But I don't know if that's viable or anybody wants it there.
Well, I'm just going to point out, we have 5 minutes left in our.
Yeah, we gotta go.
Okay.
Anyway,
And I mean,
you.
obviously, they've been there with DPW twice and,
Yeah.
yeah, so, yeah.
yeah.
I mean,
I
it
also
does
want to
seem-
point out we're the third one and got shortened, Travis, for your 5 minutes left.
Yeah.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you, Brian. Appreciate it.
Did anyone else have anything that?
No,
I don't think we do.
I just have a question in general, not necessarily about Brian. Thank you, Brian.
Good stuff.
So obviously, you guys got a couple more than that I was aware of that came in. But running quickly in my head and obviously doing numbers off the Zoom meeting isn't accurate, but it looks like 80% of the requests are rec and open space. So I just want to make sure that you guys all recognize that.
Yeah.
Looking at the 335,000, the
Yeah,
housing would take a third of that money.
yeah. There's a lot of things to think about, and for sure. And I think one of the things that came up with this is that say the funding was not there, by the time we go to build it, the costs are expensive, and who's going to make up that difference? And if 80%, there's a bunch of ones that are rec related that you know, where is that going to come from, and how do we get into the middle of that, saying we commit to something, but then now the town is, you know, having to make up that difference.
Do you mean for the fountain?
For the cost of construction on various projects in here, for not just the fountain, but anything, you know what I mean?
Well, I just meant like the category wise, that
Yeah.
80%
Yeah, yeah.
of the requests, you know, I
Yes.
think that needs to really
Right.
be reviewed in the awarding process.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
There's a lot of interest in.
That's a very good point.
It's something that
Yeah.
people interact with.
Yeah, that hasn't gone unnoticed, absolutely, yeah.
We have our three, we know 20,000, 20,000, 20,000, and then there's that extra pie, like, how do you divide that pie? And do you look at the volume of applications in one area and, you know,
Right.
Well, we have a plan.
yes.
27 pages of saying how we.
It's, I mean, it's a whole other discussion, but like,
Yeah.
yeah, obviously, housing is everything's expensive. There's no $1,000.
Yeah.
$20,000 a house, what are you gonna do, right?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it kind of, I can see like, yeah, water fountain, okay, or like fixing with this or whatever. Different categories cost more,
Yeah.
right?
Absolutely.
The Tool Museum wants $1,000 to do a museum exhibit.
Right.
And they're like, oh, great.
Yeah, I know. I love it.
And I guess,
It's just the nature of the beast. It's a
Yeah.
different beast.
Yeah.
and I guess also with it 80% being from recreation, it also means there's a lot more competition
Between the recreation, and I think that's where the fountain thing.
Even if we funded 100% recreation, we couldn't fund,
Yeah.
nearly like a third
That's
of them.
there.
So
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
it also makes it more difficult for recreation too, because there's.
Yeah.
Well, that's why I mentioned in when we were looking at the plan, that to a certain degree, Christie and her department is the gatekeeper. Like if you want to focus on a certain number of things, I mean, it leaves you in the sticky position of like telling some people like, no, the rec department is not going to give you a letter of support around X, Y, and Z, because this year we're focusing on these 4 applications. But that sort of remains an option, and, you know, maybe it's a discussion when we have the, you know, the final voting and the sorting out of.
I can also say that the GTA members, sorry, we're good at donating labor. We maintain the courts, and so oftentimes we're over at the courts repairing them after heavy downpours and erosion. If it weren't for us, 2 of the 4 courses would not be playable. at all. So we do a lot of shovel and raking and rolling, and we provide materials, the new clay, to replace that gets eroded away, because it's down in the bowl and everything goes down toward the lake.
Yeah.
The water
We would
comes
be,
out. The pond that we're gonna fix up for skating.
Right, the other one we've got for the pond.
You just pump the water out of the pond after we dredge it, hey, and then all the water would be there for
We're
free.
good.
It's right there already. And then it'd be a solar pump. It could run everything.
we're good mules, is what I'm saying. We can be the mules also, and we're good with a shovel and any kind of labor we can offer. We have a membership that we call upon and say, hey, we need volunteers here, and they'll be there with their shovels and rakes and such.
Yeah, that was the sort of thing I was referring. That was kind of what I was referring to in the beginning, Brian, that sort of thing can be looked at as in-kind match.
Yeah.
And a dollar value can be placed on it.
Right.
These 3 people are going to work 3 hours, $50 an hour, whatever, and you put that in your budget as in-kind match.
Would the town allow that, Christie, though?
Not if it's a bid project. That's
Yeah.
where.
Yeah, that's-
struggling.
Yeah.
Like he's
Yeah.
talking about routine maintenance. I mean, many years
Yeah,
ago, when the
right.
city was financially strapped, like we had to cut the tennis court budget. And that's when the GTA group came together to help get the red clay so we could maintain and keep those courts. But that doesn't have anything to do, obviously, with the actual fountain.
Yeah.
Right.
Christian, my question is, does the committee get the city department review comment sheets? Or do you summarize and share? How does that work?
They're gonna have all of them. Yes, they're the ones I've sent out so far. They're in our Google Drive, and I'll make sure they have the links to them.
Well, I know, Travis, it's 7:01 on
That's okay.
my TV, my Zoom.
That's okay. Well, thank you.
Thank you all.
Very much, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Yeah.
Question. I should have asked this before this conversation
That's okay,
started.
go ahead.
Totally. But I've been trying to take notes, and there's a lot of gems of wisdom that have been revealed here. And I'm just kind of wondering, and you weren't taking any notes, and I'm wondering.
I have the recording.
You have the recording.
Sometimes when I'm kind of involved, I actually just use the recording and do the minutes at a later date.
You think most of the gems that we surfaced tonight would be written there?
Yeah, I'll do the
We'll get
minutes.
that, okay.
Kind of how I usually.
Great. I began to worry that, oh my God, I missed a couple of good points here.
Yeah, I guess the other thing I would add is if there was something specific that you really wanted to make sure was in the minutes, you could send it to Christian just to make sure.
Right, okay.
And I do want to say, even though this was maybe hard to hear for Brian, which would be sad, but really some good information and good possibilities came out of this.
Yeah.
And ultimately, what we're trying to do is find a way for that project to happen
Right.
in a positive way. So it wasn't a negative thing. I think it was very positive to come up and, Garth, to think about that other place. Maybe it's not doable, but, and what you were saying about if that were visible and all those kids who were there,
Would be.
I mean, good stuff came.
Yeah.
That people could put into their applications. And then it makes it harder for us, because what if all the applications get better and better?
So
I agree with that 100%.
I have one comment about the process, which is that we have a lot more applications to go through. And at this rate, this is going to take an awful lot of time. I felt like people were sort of redoing their elevator pitch, which we had already heard. I had already read the application, so summarizing the application wasn't particularly helpful for me. I would have really loved to cut to the chase on the questions, like have our questions prepared and ask our questions. Just,
I think that's great.
I think that's a good point.
Really,
I think absolutely, because, why?
Yeah, we have to come prepared.
Right.
yeah.
Okay. All right.
Great. All right.
I'll make a motion to.
We do have one more thing on the
We got
agenda.
it. We don't know when we're meeting next.
Oh, gosh, I almost.
So we have on the agenda, press release for applications, meeting date that includes public comment on applications. That was an item on our agenda to talk about. If we wanted to send out another press release to say like, this is how many applications, basically what we summarized at the beginning, like this is how many applications we received in these different categories. You know, we want people to give us public comment on, you know, you can review the applications on our webpage, things like that.
Do we have a process yet for the people to give public comment? Because I don't want to say we want people.
Other than just emailing us, we don't have a process or being at a meeting to tell us.
Well, do we need to think through that a
Maybe
little
we
bit
should
more?
think through
Because
that a little
I don't
bit.
want to say we
Yeah.
want public comment if we're not ready for it and if we don't have a
I mean,
good
it's a
process.
pretty standard process for in person. Yeah, that's a pretty 2 minutes. You sign up at the beginning. You know,
Right.
we give, we have ground rules.
Yeah, but look at the city council. They end up with 4 hours of public comment. It's like,
So it would seem to me that, collecting information by email all the way through, and then like one meeting of public comment on everything at the end.
so wait,
And maybe summarizing what we've received in emails. So
but are we letting Christian receive all those and go?
Yes, I think we have.
We have the CPC email. I can like break it out in my inbox. So my inbox won't be flooded. It'll just be like the CPC email is its own category.
It can also be a form so that you can just download.
Yeah, I could do a Google form too.
Yeah.
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 And then what would we do with it?
then
Do it.
Yeah, we can
Well,
share
then we'd
it.
know. We'd have like, you know, 50 people say like, yes, I want a water fountain, and, you know, 20 people say, you know, yes, I want more signs, and, you know, 30 people say, yes, I want a bike.
Okay, so,
Like-
wait, so
Right.
are every one of us going to look at all 50 of those? Or are we going to divide them up or what are we going to do?
No, it's in a spreadsheet.
Yeah.
You just get a spreadsheet at the end, you know, where
So-
comments are up until March.
Well,
Yeah.
the way we did it for the way we could do it the way we did it for our report, or our plan, I mean, which was, you know, we did like a presentation that like summarized,
Right.
you know,
That's what I was thinking.
summarize like, you know, these are the things people say they want, like, you know,
More of this, not, you know.
yeah, like if you have 50 comments saying, please support this project, you could say 50 people said this, you don't have to.
Okay, so,
Right.
and all of that was done by Christian, right?
On the plan, did what, like summarizing the comments that we had received?
I believe so. Yeah, I think that was nice.
I mean,
So we're saying that he's going to summarize in all the emails is what I hear.
So-
No, you guys would all read the emails on your own. I'm assuming there's gonna be substantially more emails.
yeah.
So I say there needs to be a process.
So here's what I think. If we have a form that we all have access to the results, and we structure it so that, you know, like, there's a lot of questions that are like 1 to 5, or I give this 3 stars that are not necessarily all text, then we can gather some data that way that will like show us in charts. I mean, it can actually create the charts view in terms of how people are thinking about different things. So my suggestion would be to have a lot of, you know, those stars or whatever. I give it a 5, I give it a 3, you know, and that's really easy to just download and get a picture of. And also a place, you know, for comments, and maybe even, you know, put a limit on the number of characters. Yeah.
Right, it's like a 200 character.
So
80 character.
it sounds like maybe we don't want a press release yet because we don't know how people are going to give us
That's what it
public
sounds
comment.
Yeah.
And does anyone to work on this form, like coming up with how to do this?
Yeah, I mean, now is this something that we can like email each other about, or does it have to?
I think we can't do that.
Okay.
If someone makes the form, and then I can just,
We could,
put it in my forms and then, that way I won't have to make it, but I can still be the one that's managing it.
So, but can I put it out there for like feedback from people?
I think you could put it out there, but we would have to give feedback to Christian for him to share it at next meeting.
And we then,
Okay.
No.
Could you also send me some comments, like about what you'd like to see on it? So I'm not just doing it out of my own
I think
head.
we have to send them to Christian still.
We would have to, yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
Why don't you come up with it and then it'll go to Christian and then we can look at it.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like. If you,
Okay.
right, if you would be tasked with that, you would make a prototype or something like that, right? And then
Okay.
send it to Christian. And then Christian, you could share it.
I can share it and then you discuss it at a
And we
meeting.
would just get, right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, okay.
And
Yeah.
I still want to make a case for it. Let's say we get 300 emails.
Yeah.
If those were divided up, it would make far more, and if we trusted one another's judgment, that would make far more sense to me than 300, 300, 300, 300, 300.
Perhaps we could do it by, we could divide up the emails in relation to each
Category.
each proposal.
Plan.
And then just report in to everybody, do a summary of what we've gotten. We could figure out a way to do a summary of what we've received so that everybody's not reading all 300 emails, but we have the information from all 300 emails.
So it's not actually emails that you get though.
What do we
When you
get?
do a form, you
Yeah.
get a giant spreadsheet that has information like chunked together.
It's chunked together.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's one document.
Yeah, and I think the first step is getting the comments, and then we can decide, like,
Yeah.
wait, first we gotta get them, and we can decide how we divvy it up after.
Okay, so getting back
Spend the meeting just
to
going through the
Christian's
mailbag.
question.
Yeah.
Which is, where are we going next around public comment and around the announcement to the public? Are we going to do a press release, which is going to say that there'll be a form that people will be able to fill out and, is that what we're saying, I guess?
I mean, I think what we've said is that we don't want to do a press release until we have a.
Okay,
Yeah.
good, okay, good. I'm sorry, but I had
No, that's fine.
I had
Okay.
I had a brother worried about my
Form
safety.
to share at our next meeting.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, okay,
If you're willing to take that on.
I'll take it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
okay.
Okay, so on our agenda, and I think at our last meeting, we said that our next meeting would be December 22nd at 5 p.m.
Oh, yeah, there it is. It's on the calendar.
Just making sure that was for most people.
And I know that I can't come because I'm going on a family thing and I have to do that. I
That's
want to do
right.
that.
I think if you had questions about projects that we were gonna review, like you could probably like send those to Christian.
And that'd be fine. I'm more than happy to.
And they would get mentioned during the meeting.
I just realized I also can't come because my daughter and grandson and son-in-law are coming up from Florida that day and I'm picking them up at the airport.
That's
And
a
I
great
don't get to see
Christmas
them
Eve.
very much. I spend every moment
Kinda
I
tough.
can.
Okay.
We were trying to figure out how to get like as many meetings in as possible.
Sure.
Well, as long as
We have 11 more to do
Right.
in the next
11
two-ish
more.
months.
And I'm assuming we do 3, we're talking about 4 meetings.
Yeah.
Something like that, yes.
I mean, I guess I don't have to be there. You're gonna have the form and.
Yeah, I mean-
I'll already have done my stuff.
Grandkids. This is, you got
Okay.
stuff to do.
If, Christie, I just noticed Christie's comment that she's not going to be able to be there on the 22nd. If we can figure out not doing recreation stuff, we could make that possible for you. It's not going to be easy.
Or, I mean, the other option is like, in the meeting, we could talk about what questions we have, and then we could like send the questions to Christie or whoever's the applicant.
Yeah, I mean,
If they can't.
couldn't Christie also have like a prepared statement, a comment, an opinion about the project that she could send to us that we could share at the meeting?
Yeah, about every single one.
Everything.
Yeah, I
Just the
would
ones
want to
that
be
we're pulling.
present. I'm sorry that I travel. I'm not a native, even though I've been here for 15 plus years. I feel like a local, but I do go home to spend time with my family for the holidays. So that's just a really bad time for me. And I would want to be present because, nearly all of these I have been involved with. on.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
If we did.
There's still like,
We could
there's,
do
there's Highland Pond, there's the historic,
Yeah.
two historic things.
Highland Park, but the Historical
listed
Society, the document preservation, and the Safe Bicycle Link. Well, no.
That's also.
That's right.
Yeah, so
take it back.
that's always the reason I said, well, maybe,
Yeah.
you know, I
Yeah.
totally understand.
Yeah.
We have two history and the rest are rec.
We need
Yeah.
to see there, this whole thing,
I know.
okay.
I have been extremely busy doing CPC.
We can tell that.
Right, that's.
You're gonna be
Yeah,
apparently.
yeah.
Even
So
more.
is there another day during that week?
Ryan just sent a comment out. Did you see that?
No.
He said, with regard to next steps, can I resubmit our application to respond to feedback from this meeting? I guess that's up to you guys, but there was a date to submit applications. So.
I mean, if it's just like I think
An addendum.
Yeah.
I think like an addendum would make sense.
Yeah, because we've already seen your application, so then if you weave new stuff into it, it would be more difficult to find than if you just added something in a document to sort of answer things. Does that make sense?
And you know, this is our first year, but every year we'll have people who, it's their first year for filling out applications.
It will always be,
So
yeah.
every year we're gonna, you know, there'll be the.
Yeah, they really, if people, you know, we talked about this before, people really need help to get through this process.
Yeah.
They have no idea. They have no idea
Right.
how to get through it. That's not what they do. So it's,
Right.
everybody's like that.
So are we gonna stick with that meeting date or,
22nd?
I mean, we had a whole discussion about it.
It seems kind of bad. I mean,
It is
I'm
close to.
probably going to be here. It's up to my wife, you know?
Is there a reason why December 15th didn't work for people?
That worked for me. I have a planning board.
You want to, should we check with Chris?
We can't use that room this date either, the 15th.
I mean, it does seem like there's at least 3 or 4 that not be directly.
Yeah, we
recreation.
could do the historical ones.
Yeah, there are.
I mean, they might not be able to make it either. I guess that's the.
Right.
But do they have to be here? Like,
Well, I mean, I think
If we
that's,
have questions.
if they care.
yeah, I mean, I think we need to decide, like, do people need to be here for a meeting, or can we just like bring up this project, talk about what questions we have, and then send them the questions, and then they can get.
Yeah, I think people are going to want to be here. I mean, in my opinion, just saying, the 22nd is kind of a problematic day because it's so
Yeah.
close to Christmas holiday. Everybody, you know,
Is there another day that week?
Of the 19th is Monday, that works. Oh, that's Hanukkah, the first day of Hanukkah.
Yeah, that's not as big a deal as,
That's what
as the Jewish person.
that's what I've heard.
No,
Are there other days that this room is available?
That's what I'm looking at.
Yeah, not the 15th. We can't.
City council's probably.
We can't meet on the 15th and go to the Don
City Council, yeah, will be on the 21st.
That's where the planning board is.
Yeah.
on the 15th.
So
There is
for
on to.
both places being booked, the 14th,
I'm
15th,
talking to the planning board.
and then all the week, the 19th and the 22nd, both, besides the 21st, this room isn't booked. I mean, that's not that much more helpful.
Yeah.
Maybe it is a little
Monday.
helpful.
I'm at a board meeting that day.
13th, the John's on is not booked. Tuesday,
13th, I have Conservation Commission.
Monday.
You go from one to the other.
Monday, the 12th works for me. God, that's just like so soon.
11 days. Almost 2 weeks.
Monday the 12th.
Monday, the 12th, does that work for other people?
Yeah, I mean, I teach at night, so Mondays and Wednesdays. So, yeah,
Mondays and Wednesdays are not good.
not good. No. Yeah.
And can everyone else make it to Monday, the
Yeah.
I can't.
I think, I've got this big calendar on the wall that,
Yeah.
You don't have a little tiny one inside your phone?
well, I got that one too.
I really try to. Where is it? Should I lost?
Oh, the 12th, yeah, I can't do it.
You can't? Okay.
Well, and we're missing, we're down 2 anyway.
Yeah, we're down 2 right now.
So they'll, yeah, maybe we should put it out there. Yeah.
Make a doodle poll if you want.
Yeah, let's do a doodle poll and
And is there somewhere else we could meet?
John's on.
Well, John's on, they might be booking the big room, but that little room might be.
Yeah, the little room is
Yeah, we
cozy.
a little
Yeah,
bit.
and
Yeah.
if we,
We just wouldn't have,
Have Zoom?
Yeah, that little room does not have Zoom. That's the only
yeah,
Right.
in person only.
And we also have to record, right?
We
record.
don't have to.
We don't have to, we just have to, if there wasn't a recording, I'd be taking active minutes during the meeting.
Okay. Because I know like GCTV, people used to have meetings there.
Oh, we could ask GCTV to come record it. That is an option.
That's a whole, that's another
That was
level.
one of the reasons.
Yeah, we don't have to record.
Okay, oh,
And, yeah. We could still have a Zoom link so people could, we do that at the
Yeah, let
historic
me-
commission sometimes.
let me just say that the last week in December at this point has no city meetings in it whatsoever.
Everybody knows that.
Yeah,
Everybody
the
knows.
26th through the 30th. I have a meeting on the 28th, but other than that, there's nothing there. So if we need to move back a week,
29.
So is there, we can't push the meetings into February? I mean, like why?
January?
I think
Well,
this,
we're gonna, but
We're just trying to do as many as we can.
But as soon as we can, because we know that
I know
we're,
there's a lot.
there's a lot, yeah, to
yeah,
get
and
through,
then,
so.
and then if we're
We don't
asking
have to
people to give
move
us,
us a month, yeah.
yeah, and if we're asking people to give us more information,
Yeah.
that it just pushes everything back.
What about January 5th? Why don't you just, look at the beginning of January after the holidays?
That makes sense. You want to join?
I
the
mean, I
committee?
almost think that it's better to go further out because
Yeah.
then you give people who are gonna want to come and present a little bit more time to plan to be here, rather than say, oh, you're coming next week.
I think we talked about January 5th at our last meeting.
Yeah, I think we did too.
And for some reason, we chose not to schedule a meeting for that date because
Again, I cannot make it, but
that was one.
Yeah.
you can do without me, I
I
know.
guess what
Working at
what
GCC.
I'm looking at right now is
You are,
Yeah,
January,
because nobody signs up to test.
if we don't, if we can do like January 12th, if we do 3 weeks in a row, which would be the 12th, the 19th, and 26th.
How about I make a doodle poll for every Thursday for the next 5 months?
Yeah, I think that's what we need.
yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah.
Really, that'd be
We need
great.
more meetings with people to deal with the proposals first pass.
I mean, we
think
could.
I would suggest you add in a Tuesday, because I know that Donna, we have rec commission on
On the
Thursday.
19th, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, that's good.
All of Tuesdays and
Tuesday, I have
Okay.
Conservation Commission.
Okay.
I think we need to adjourn and we'll.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pull out and
Yeah.
then, because the other folks that are not here, they're gonna want to chime in and we
Right.
should
Yeah.
decide for them.
Okay, so next meeting is to be determined.
Yeah.
Doodle poll,
Sorry, yeah.
Yeah.
and it will be posted.
Can we perhaps suck it up and go a little longer?
We could,
We could
I mean, we could have
have four people
4
come
or
in.
5. If we want to go really longer. And if we streamline it a bit and not have,
I think to Donna's point, yeah, I think doing that would certainly help.
and some
More
of these
efficiently.
might be a little simpler and maybe we don't even
Yeah.
have any questions or,
Yeah, for sure. These ones are a little, I mean, the water fountain, who knew it was gonna be? We spent more time talking about that than the $23 million. I think that's true. I think that's, just saying.
Well, I mean, the thing is, this portion of the meeting is, or this portion of the things are just for asking, basically clarifying questions on the
Yeah.
procedures, because we then have a whole couple meetings where we're like figuring out what and if we're spending of the
how it-
150,000.
Yeah.
What that looks like.
If we could try to commit ourselves to having all of these presentations and discussions done by the first week in February. Because we're talking about somewhere between 2 or 3 meetings, depending on how long we run them. I think that's the beginning of getting ourselves in order here. So if we've got 11 more proposals. And if we do, 3 meetings where we have 2 at 4, or, however we want to
Yeah.
frame that, I think we can get those done.
Yeah.
Then we can be done by the beginning of February and then move on to deliberating and doing what we need to do.
That makes sense.
Or we could get done in the amount of time we've been in this meeting because we've spent so long
Right, yeah,
talking about.
Right.
But I think like 2 hours is kind of like the.
Yeah, we don't want to go
what we're
forever.
planning for.
Right, right.
No, but I do think that to have some debriefing time is really important.
Absolutely. And that's also true.
Because we had to do that in a public meeting, so.
Yeah.
Okay, so, and we'll make a motion to adjourn then. So we got the.
I'm itching to.
I just want to add, so we got the plan figured out. We're going to do a doodle poll and we'll figure out when the next meeting is.
Yeah. The next meeting.
We'll plan for 4, multiple meetings.
And if we could decide which 4 we're going to be doing now, that would
Yeah.
allow us to be ready for, or if it.
Nah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Or you don't mean now. You mean after the doodle poll?
What, the people that were going to be attending?
Yeah.
I was just going to go, so after, these were the first 3 that got submitted. I'm just going to do alphabetical after this.
Fine,
Yeah.
All right.
fine.
Motion to adjourn.
All right, motion. to adjourn.
Seconded.
Seconded. All those in favor of adjourning?
Oh,
All right, that is.
Cool.
Isn't it a great plan?
it is a great one. Thank you.